I was bundled into Barrow Hospital, Bristol, aged 22, following a sleeping draught being administered and waking up some time later not knowing where I was. I was at the beginning of a research career in plant agricultural sciences, working for the University of Bristol. Following 2 subsequent admissions, sometimes to a locked ward, I was diagnosed as bipolar and placed on lithium. The hospital was just down the road from the research institute, so I could happily live at the hospital and go to work as my health improved. For the next 5 years I had around 3 admissions, sometimes on section. My employer was understanding and always let me go back to my research career, and I was successful gaining a part-time PhD. In 1985 I married and my daughter was born, and I enjoyed good health without medication for 5 years. Unfortunately, my husband became violent. Although he was working in London and Cambridge and spending weekends in Bristol, I obtained a non-molestation order and started divorce proceedings. Things proved too much for me and I was sectioned onto a locked ward. The recovery from this took rather longer than on previous occasions, although near the beginning of the section I took myself off to Italy to give a scientific paper and then returned to the hospital on an open ward. It was a real wrench to be separated from my young daughter, who I had single-handedly cared for since she was born. My research moved to Hertfordshire, so I was transferred over there and told my daughter could join me. However, despite many court appearances and a judicial review, she never did, and my ex-husband took possession of the family home and brought her up in Bristol. I was absolutely devastated that I was separated from her, and was ill and hospitalised in a locked ward of an old asylum, Hill End, St Albans, around 8 times in 5 years. I really hated it there and continued to take lithium, but it did not assist my ability to cope. Every time I went into hospital and came out again, I had to go back to court to obtain access rights to my daughter. This employer was less understanding, and my publication and presentation rate dropped until I was made redundant, aged 38. The employer wasn't able to retire me on the grounds of ill health, however, as I made an appeal and was successful. When I could no longer live in tied accommodation in Hertfordshire, I moved into a flat above my father's garage in Hartlebury, Worcestershire. I had tried to obtain another research post without success, despite around 150 applications. I did not realise I was given an ill health reference by my supervisor until I was interviewed by Worcester College of Technology, and they told me about it. I retrained as an administrator and readily obtained work. Since living in Worcestershire, in the background has been particularly my community psychiatric nurse and also consultant. Continuing on haloperidol, Haldol, and procyclidine, then risperidone, I remained well for around 8 years. But following my discharge by my CPN because he couldn't see me anymore, a fallout with my family, and losing a position due to trying to do too much, I again found myself on section in Kidderminster General Hospital. My diagnosis was changed to paranoid schizophrenic, and I stabilised on aripiprazole 3 years, 3 admissions and a couple of suicide attempts later. I was pretty unwell between admissions too, and although self-employed and doing part-time work, found it difficult recovering. I found Kidderminster General Hospital more open than Hill End, being more in mainstream medicine than an enormous asylum. I feel recovery depends very much on a person's environment and people support, neither of which was very good for me then. My last period of illness was treated by the crisis resolution and home treatment teams in my own home. Although disrupted by lots of different staff visiting me, it did mean that I didn't have the institutionalisation hurdle to jump when leaving hospital again, and my pet cats didn't go missing. For that reason, I hope that if I'm ill again, it will be these teams that support me through illness, as I don't wish to go into hospital again. I was assisted by the employment and vocational worker in the Wyre Forest to join the exemplar training scheme with the Worcestershire Mental Health Partnership Trust, and then successfully gained a full-time administrative post through competitive interview elsewhere within the trust. This has really helped my recovery. I am in regular contact with my daughter, who is well, living and working in London following a period of overseas travel. We support each other. I don't do nearly as many evening activities as I did during the 8 years I worked before my last bout of ill health in Worcestershire, but knitting and leading Hartlebury Common local group makes up for that. I'm nearly 55 and hope I won't have ill health again. I can support my colleagues with stress at work and others throughout the wider community with my experiences and the big recovery project IMROC initiative I'm involved in.